rock me to sleep in death. The demons in my room do not scare me anymore. In fact, they're a part of me now. At least, that's what I think. I have always been scared of the dark for as long as I can remember. It was not like there was a story attached to it, but I did not like the feeling of being at a loss for what to do, helplessly groping and finding my way in order to survive. At least, that's what I told myself and everyone who cared to ask why the palpitations in my chest increased whenever it was nighttime. "Good night, Jane. Don't forget your appointment with Dr. Lewis tomorrow morning," my mother said after tucking me in. "I won't forget, Mom. Can you please leave the light on?" "Don't you think you've grown past that childish trait of sleeping with the lights on? I'll let it slide only for tonight. But after this, we'll go back to the no lights being on at night rule. Is that clear?" "Thanks, Mom. I love you." "I love you too, Munchkin." I sighed tiredly once the door clicked shut. I waited for a few minutes before picking the novel I had borrowed from the public library to keep myself busy since I'd been placed on device ban for a week. The alarm beeps once. I glanced at the small clock by my bedside. It was already well into the night, and my eyes felt as heavy as they would if I hadn't slept in weeks. I yawned and stretched lazily, trying to make up my mind to either finish reading my book or get some sleep. I settled for the latter, as it was already clear. My mother would not allow me to get more than 8 hours of sleep, but I could always return to the book later. I yawned again, already tired from stretching. I dropped the book beside the clock and settled in the covers to catch some hours of well-deserved sleep. 2 hours and a second more. I've always been having the same nightmare every night since I turned 10. At first, my mother had attributed it to my love for horror movies, but it was much more than that. But even then, I had never joked with my sleep. Not even when my mother made it a point of duty to come in my room every night since the accident to check if I was breathing well or in need of something. I heard the door open and smiled to myself. She must have decided to continue the routine. I snuggled deeper into the covers and let the cool of the night lure me to bed. The side of my bed dipped, a telltale sign that she had made herself comfortable beside me. I felt her hand touch my hair softly, caressing them like they were the prettiest thing in the room. She hummed a soft tune while she stroked my hair. It was a familiar lullaby from one of the kiddie shows she'd made me watch when I was little. She moved her hands from my hair and traced it down my face, still humming the song, but it felt odd. The fingers on my face felt nothing like my mother's. It didn't have the sense of warmth that I was familiar with. These fingers were cold and seemingly lifeless. I heard the door open again and a gust of cold air entered the room, making me shiver. I heard footsteps approaching the bed and I wondered who else was in the room with us. I groggily opened my eyes and was instantly surprised by how dark the room was. I never turned off my lights at night, so it was really strange, except my mother had done that herself. I felt the hands on my face again, and this time there was a warm liquid trickling down my face. I opened my eyes in full alarm as the liquid, whatever it was, slithered around my neck. I tried to move my hands to check what it was, but I realized I could not move my hands. I heard mumblings around me. It sounded like there were voices talking, but it didn't register as voices in my head, but as the buzzing of bees. It took about a few seconds for my eyes to adjust to the darkness. Thanks to the full moon outside my window, I saw figures surrounding my bedside, but their faces were not clear. But their eyes, on the other hand, were glistening crimson. I saw my mother staring at me, still stroking my face, but her eyes were dead and cold, and looked nothing like the woman who birthed and nurtured me. I tried to move away from her touch, but my body stayed put. I could not move any part of my body at all. I tried to scream when I felt the hands on my face beginning to burn, but I couldn't move. The woman in front of me pressed her fingers deep into my face, and I could feel them burn deep into my skin. "Mom," I called out in my mind, hoping that my real mother would somehow miraculously appear here and save me from the nightmare I was in. The woman smiled evilly at me as her fingers kept on piercing my skin. I could feel my face getting cold, like it was in the freezer, and the woman's face beginning to morph into mine. Her eyes were red, and there were horns starting to grow on her head. I could do nothing but stare as she sucked the life out of me with her fingers, while the other figures continued to mumble. "Oh yes, doctor. She's asleep now. I'll go check if she's okay," I heard my mother say from outside. Suddenly, the door opened and I saw my mother in all her comforting glory with a glass of water in her hand. I still could not move and could only stare at her approaching the figure, still whispering to the phone. The other woman by my bed stared at me menacingly before disappearing into thin air. "Hey baby, are you okay?" My mother dropped the glass of water by my bed just as I started gasping for breath. "Mom, it started again," I cried as I caught my breath. "What happened, baby?" "She's back. The woman from the playground."
Subscribe today.